Good morning. Till the last class, I was discussing about the specialized skill, and the last skill that I discussed about was exiting. There can be a lots of discussion on art of exiting. I have just cited one example with you. There are many such, and in the profession, in the business, in the agreements, in the contracts, you will find that there are several reasons or several consequences for which you would like to exit. It is because of this, if you have gone through any agreement or contract, you will find that there is a termination clause given. This termination clause does not mean that somebody terminates you. You can also terminate your client. So, termination clause given with a certain amount of time, contract, which gives a very comfortable exit route to either of the parties. So, art of exiting or exiting is a specialist skill, but the thing is you do not consider this to be a negative one. If you see there is trouble, exit. Suppose you have taken a project somewhere in some other country, the country was running very, there was no law and order problem, there was no political problem, there is no inter-country, continental problem, but suddenly after about working for about 5 years, then you realize that something is brewing for, global political situations. That does not mean that just by virtue of signing a contract, you have to stay there, do the work, and then finally meet a very sad end. No, you should find out that how should you move out of that particular place. You should be able to sense, and then you should have sufficient amount of time before things gone worse, you just exit. So, art of exiting is a very, very strong skill. Dear friends, if you have it, I really salute you. Okay, now the next parts. Continuing with the specialized skill, intercultural competence. Intercultural competence is, I am seeing it quite frequently now. In a country like us, where there are lots of, linguistic barriers. That means different states have different kind of languages, different dialects, different kind of mindsets, different kind of cultural system, different kind of traditions, different kind of dresses, different kind of speaking style, different kind of mindsets or attitudes. When there are so much of diversity, cultural diversity, in such cases, if you are trying to do some business, then in such cases your intercultural competence is very essential. I have found that knowledge of language sometimes breaks the barrier of the intercultural competence or intercultural differences. If you can speak at least to a certain extent the language of that particular locality where you are doing your business, then you will find that you definitely get an edge over. They know that you are not expert in that language, but they know that you are honestly trying. You remember I told you a story that one person, he thanked me because I was trying to learn another state's language. This is it. That means basically this competence comes from within. In fact, I have found that the reason for having strong specialized skill in intercultural competence is intermixing. Mix with different kind of cultural people right from your early days. It suddenly does not come up. And quite often I have found that people from one region of the country finds it very difficult to immediately communicate with others. Sometimes language helps, like say English. If English is a common language in our country, everybody is supposed to speak. In such case, then English is the first language by which you break the intercultural differences. Then another, our national language, Hindi. If suppose Hindi is a Rashtra Bhasha, in such case what happens is if you speak in that particular language, and there are many states where the primary language is Hindi, and you have a very good prospect of your business because you break the barrier of intercultural differences. It is true for all, whether it is North India versus South India, whether it is East India versus West India. The point is, I am focusing only on India because I do not want to talk about the other continents, such intercultural differences. Here it matters. So, if you mix with people of different cultures right from your young age, if you are lucky that you have studied in a school where people from different students from different culture they came and they are studying it together, then I'll tell you, you are in a greatest advantage. But this competence is essential. My suggestion to all the friends is that even if you belong to one set of culture, you try to learn or imbibe the other cultural traits, at least when you are doing business. If you want to remain where you are and don't want to do the business with other cultural groups, there is no harm. But the thing is, if you are planning for doing this, then you have to also imbibe how you speak, how you greet, how do you communicate. All these are very, very important. So, intercultural competences are specialized skills, and quite often you have found some people who are very strong at it, others is so-so, they somehow run it. Knowledge management is another, why it is a specialized skill. Knowledge management, why it's a specialized skill, do you know? Everybody is educated. Suppose in a class there are 40 students graduating this year. The knowledge that has been imparted by the teachers or the institution through the course is same. But how you are using your knowledge when you go to the profession, how you utilize your knowledge, everybody learned the same thing. But how do you exercise it? How do you implement it? How do you execute it? It's a specialized skill. You might find that somebody who was a little weak in classes, but when it comes to really applying a certain knowledge which he has, which is there at the back of his mind, and he gets an opportunity to interact and execute that, he's a boss. So, your knowledge management, not necessarily that all knowledge that you have got, every time you will be trying to use it. How do you retrieve the knowledge and then apply on ground at that instance is very, very important skill, and that's very specialized skill. Many things all of us learn, but when it comes to a real application, suddenly somehow we fail to retrieve it. Can't help it. We are not supernatural powers. So, it may happen that okay, I am not being able to retrieve it, but what you generally do at that point of time, maybe instantly you are not implementing it because you are not being able to retrieve. But specialist, what he will do, immediately he will know, at least this I have learned in one of my third year first semester. That's all. He will say, okay, I will get back tomorrow. This problem solutions I will be able to find out tomorrow. So, when he says that this particular points I will elaborate tomorrow, he goes back and looks at his notes and the books, and then immediately he works out with the knowledge, and the next day when he comes as an expert. This is a knowledge management skill. I have found quite often some students, they asked me and also asking my other colleagues, other professor colleagues, that why should I learn this subject? I found some subjects where students might have asked, quite often asked me that, sir, tell me, why should I learn that subject? Am I going to be a specialist? I am going to hire a specialist. It's a very, very naive question and honest question. And since they are still, students are still in the process of maturity development, I don't take this as a negative question. I take this as a very positive question. Then I try to give him an idea that why should you learn this subject. And if I say that, okay, this is how you can apply, and he is anticipating that he probably may not apply in future, the point is he doesn't know what is lying in future. Maybe something like a subject called acoustics. Why should I learn? A physicist or an acoustic expert will give me service. But the point is maybe that you being an architect, suddenly in one time in your life you got an auditorium to be designed. If you are going to design an auditorium for which you are going to get some crores of money or lakhs of money as a fees, at that point in time what will happen is you should not be in a position to think what is called acoustics, what is acoustics? I am supposed to design an auditorium, what is acoustics? Then who are really acoustic experts? This is what is the knowledge gaps that you do have. That is why I told my students that subjects which have been worked out for you in the course always had been thought for your benefit. It is not for killing your time, for your benefit. And you learn that knowledge, and then how you manage the knowledge in your profession or even in your day-to-day life is different things. Okay? That is one specialized skill one should have. So, everybody is knowledgeable, but everybody cannot manage their own knowledge. So, simply degree, I always say, simply having a degree does not make you a specialist. How do you retrieve your knowledge? How do you execute successfully with a degree is your actual thing. Okay. Marketing skill is, there will be more detailed discussion on this, simply saying that, okay, how do you sell? How do you sell your products? How do you bring your products out of your workshops to the market and then reaches the end users, whoever they are, depending on the products? How do you bring it forward and ultimately reaches the end user through you is the marketing skill. Okay? We are talking about the products. I can tell you one thing. As an academician, how do I take out my knowledge from my knowledge bank and then disseminate to others or communicate to others so that other gets a benefit is also the marketing skill. There are lots of knowledgeable people, highly knowledgeable, but they cannot teach well. They are knowledgeable. You know, in many of the companies I have found that there are some very specialists in knowledge by qualification and also their competence. But when it comes to selling their knowledge, they are not very good at it. That's why teaching, communicating, these are certain skills which people do have. It's a soft skills which people do have. So, marketing is that which you have a product, whether it's a knowledge or an item, and now you want to reach this item to an end user, and the whole process is the marketing. So, when in any company you will find that they are recruiting people, they are recruiting people as marketing specialists. There may be 200 applicants, but they will judge by certain criterion, certain qualities and certain kind of skills like this, by which they can be sure that this person can market our products. So, that is why every 200 persons is not, it's not simply that they can pick up anybody and give them a marketing job. Marketing is not easy, and there are lots of, lots of ifs and buts in the marketing. So, when I will talk about the marketing strategies and such things, and maybe to a certain extent when I will be discussing about the business negotiations or service negotiations, at that point of time I will bring in more detail of it. It is essentially how do you sell your product to an end user. Meeting management is another. This will come in my detailed discussion. See, these are the skills. If I do not mention now, then I am not focusing on it. I will discuss about this where I will talk about the negotiations, the discussions in which the meeting. But here basically what we mean to say is, whenever there is an organized meeting, there has to be a specialist who can manage the whole meeting. Is there something to be managed in meeting? Yes, it is. You know what should be managed? The points, the agenda items, the weightage of agenda items, the time for each agenda items, the total time that you are booking, the total time that you are not using. Are you reaching your decisions? Are you reaching to a consensus? Are you reaching to a conclusion which is evolving out of the meeting? So, meeting management is a very strong skill. Every manager should have a good meeting management skill, but not everybody has that. It is somehow some people who are specialists in it. I have seen there are many meetings I have attended in my life, so many, being administrators in my institution and all. I have found many meetings in which I have found that I have wasted my 3 hours. It is not because the content was bad, it was only because the meetings were not conducted well, it was not properly managed. There might have been a very important agenda which is at the end, but we have wasted our time in the very, very trivial or less important agenda which came in the first, and then ultimately had hardly any time to really deliberate on the last agenda, which is very, very important one. It is, I would say, it's a fault of the person who is managing the meeting, so, like say chairman of that particular committee or that meeting. Okay. So, meeting management is one which I found that some people are specialists in it, and they know exactly where to stop and how to cut. They will cut the meeting. Say, suppose, an example is, suppose the chairman has raised an agenda and now everybody is saying something or the other, different people are giving their opinions, whether it is supporting or contrary to it. Okay? Now, there are some in the meeting, I have found, you have also found this, that who keeps on brewing the sentences over and over again just to show their importance or just to show their presence, but really they are not helping the meeting to come to a conclusion. In such cases, what happens is immediately the chairman has to understand that this is going out of the context. This person is taking unnecessary time. He is wasting the time of the others. The conclusion is not going to be reached by this discussion. Then he has an art of stopping him, giving opportunity to another one. Some people do it very rudely. He said, okay, you have talked enough. You have said enough. I won't listen to the others. This is a very rude way of saying it. Somebody says, I think you had been always at every point you are saying something or the other. Please think about the points that you are raising. Let others speak. This is a rude way of doing it. But there can be a way, very soft, suave way by which you can request him to now either conclude or stop, and then request others to speak. So these are specialized skills. These things, it comes automatically whenever you learn about it, and many of these examples and some do's and don'ts I'll bring out when I'll discuss in further classes. Organizing ability, I have talked about it earlier, that some people who has a strong ability to organize something, out of nothing he will organize everything. Okay? Organizing ability, we consider this as a specialized skill. Not everybody can organize. See, for any kind of workshops or conferences or any kind of meetings or events, different people are given different, it's not based on hierarchy, but different people are given different responsibilities. Okay? And the responsibilities may be such that one group has to report to the higher, next upper group, and this group is supposed to report to the other. But the point is, there should be, in every group there has to be a good organizer, somebody with a very specialized skill of organizing, because each group is working in a group. So multiple people with multiple kind of mindsets, attitudes, communication skills, and all the skills that I am talking about, individual is loaded with such kind of skills, positive or negative, some more or less. Okay? So the thing is, amongst each group there should be somebody who is specialized in organizing skill. So this committee's outcome is probably going to be guided by that person who is organizing it. He may not be a leader, he may not be called a leader, he may be another person in a group, and he works it out, organizes the whole thing in such a manner with the help of everybody, and then ultimately reports to their leader. So this is a specialized skill. So organizing skill at every hierarchical level is important. Organizational behavior is a slightly different thing. If you are along with other colleagues in an organization, then there are certain rules or certain norms or certain behavioral norms of that particular organization. How you speak, how you greet your colleagues, how you react to some negative or oppositions, how you react to something like failure, how do you appreciate in terms of good things or success. There is something called behavior. I might cite certain examples later on, but still let me tell you one thing. In the organizational behavior, the first thing that is important is never disrespect any position. Never disrespect. Every position held by anybody, starting from the lowest of the ring to the highest, every position has a role to play. It is by virtue of, they are selected by virtue of the kind of works that they are assigned to do and their qualifications. Maybe compensated with an equivalent salary, but nobody is least important, everybody is important. So in the organizational behavior, the first thing is you must demonstrate respect. Every individual knows his strength and limitations. If somebody is having a wrong notion about his strength and weaknesses, I am not talking about those people, but I can tell you one thing, everybody knows his strength and weaknesses. Okay? But that does not mean that you have to disrespect somebody. You may rectify somebody, but disrespect, no. Self-respect is the one which that's the biggest treasure that we do have. self-respect. Means I first know how to retain my respect, how to create my respect of, how to get the respect of others. In the organizational behavior, respecting the self-respect of individual is supreme. Rest can be created. If somebody is less knowledgeable, he can be added with knowledge. If somebody is less competent, he can be trained to earn knowledge. But you cannot really play with others' respect. So organizational behavior is how do you manifest in the organization. Whether you shout at your colleagues, whether you throw away the papers and ultimately show disrespect, are you trying to demonstrate somebody that he is subordinate? Sometimes even subordinate gives the higher authority a very good suggestion. You should be immediately appreciative about it. And he knows that giving a suggestion which never came in your mind does not make him a boss and you become a subordinate. No. He knows that for the benefit of the company, if my boss does this, then probably it will help. So he suggests, and he suggests with a lot of hesitations. Maybe in conversation, verbal conversation, when I'll come to it, I'll give one or two such kind of demonstrative examples. But the thing is, he knows his limits. And with being within the limits, he suggests something to the boss, and the boss then appreciates him for a good suggestion which never came in his mind, but came in the other person's mind who is subordinate. This is a good organizational behavior. And next time he will also get another, but at the same time he will also make sure that every time this subordinate doesn't keep on loading him with all suggestions and all suggestions and all suggestions. So organizational behavior is a very tricky thing. There are courses who are teaching how about different aspects of organizational behavior with cases. You can always attend those and try to know. But individual organization, every organization has their own system and own culture, work process, the kind of manpowers, the quality of manpowers, the kind of compensation. So you cannot expect that what you learn in the organizational behavior is going to be summarily or uniformly used in all the organizations. So what is my suggestion is, organizational behavior is, first thing is, your behavior should be positive, number one. Number two is, if you are joining an organization, then first you try to understand the organizational culture and kind of behavior that you have to now manifest. If you find that something which you have not been trained with or you did not experience in an earlier company, but then you are trying to understand the culture of this particular organization. So for organizational behavior manifestation, the first thing is for anybody is to understand the organizational culture. Earliest you do, you are in a better position. If you take 5 years to understand what is the culture of the organization, then I'm sorry, you really don't make a headway. This one, again, you see, it's all in caps and bold. Just like exiting, I said, this is another penetrating, another very strong specialized skill. What is this penetrating? In professional life, in business, in sales, in marketing, how do you penetrate your market? Is the point. It's a skill. How do you penetrate it? You know, this is one skill which is highly respected. Exiting skill is rarely executed because nobody wants to exit really. But penetrating skill for salesperson or business person is very important. Let's say there is a business. You know the opportunity and you have analyzed the trend of the business and you want to do the business. This I discussed earlier. Now you want to do the business. You know that there are 10 other people who are already serving this company for 20 years in different time, and you are 11th one trying to enter. How would you penetrate this? The first thing you will be waiting for, if they bring out another notice inviting tender, NIT, or expression of interest, you will be waiting for this. If you wait for this and suppose they are looking for some changes, some different things, and now they find that they don't know whom to really approach, and if somehow you are not contacted, then your work starts. You just want to see whether they require you or could you give service to them, or could you make business with them? If you wait for the EOI, expression of interest, or NIT, notice inviting tender, then probably you will be waiting for years and years. The action is penetrate. How do you do it? You try to find out an internal contact. Not necessarily you are going to do a business. Try to find out the internal contact and then connect. When I will talk about the connection and the networking, you will find this more in detail, but I will just give a clue over here. Connect with the internal contact. So, what is very vital is try to find out the actual reliable potential internal contact. Make him a friend. Don't beg for business. Just try to understand what they do require, what services they require. Then try to explore who all are giving these services to them already. See, you are in competition does not mean that the other competitors are your enemies. For God's sake, never think the other people who are selling along with you, they are your enemies. No, you are only expanding the team playing. Either that person gets a job or you get a job. Respect the others who got the job and try to analyze why did you lose the job. So, here, I am not considering them as an enemy, but I am trying to find out that who are they. Then I would like to find out more what are their specialities for which they are giving service to this company. And then you cross check with the requirements of the company which you have gathered from the internal sources. Compare them. Find out that up to what degree this service provider is matching the requirements. Find out the gaps. If you can find out one gap, don't bother about the rest of it which they are giving. You highlight that particular gap and make an appointment with the chairman or the person of authority, decision making group, okay? Anybody. Try to make a contact through the internal contacts, internal sources, and then don't say that they cannot give, I can give. Don't say that. You just tell them that they have these requirements, many of their requirements are met by their other counterparts or other competitors, and this is one gap area in which you can provide services, and you would first request them, would you like to give me an opportunity to give you service in this gap areas which others are not being able to give. Basically what you have done, you have penetrated within. This penetrating, when it comes to salesperson, there are many ways of penetrating. There is a saying, the foot in the door. That means a salesperson, when he first time meets you, he puts his foot on the threshold of the door so that he cannot close the door. Basically what he has done, he has penetrated it. If suppose a salesperson comes to your door and he rings the bell and you open the door, he has penetrated, at least by his appearance. If he can bring you to about 2 minutes conversation when you are going to highlight your products, he is penetrating further. And if he can make business and make you purchase the item, he has penetrated further. And if he has satisfied you with the product, the next time you can always come and he will be very happily saying, yes, I have exhausted that earlier supply, give me more, you are penetrating further. So, this penetrating capability is not a very common one in everybody. Penetrating ability, it has one small, hitch in this. Everybody who penetrates first thinks that his self-respect is hit. He is thinking that, am I begging? Am I trying? Am I showing him that I need? So, this hits the psychology of the person, of the salesperson. Now, this is only thing that people are afraid to negotiate or compromise with their self-respect. Not everybody can penetrate. But I can tell you, absolutely maintaining your dignity and self-respect, you can still penetrate. Only thing is you have to know this trick. Now, this trick is not every time a learnable trick. This trick is, it just generates in split second in the mind. Okay? But this is one very strong skill which we call specialized skill. It is because of this, many companies, they try to select salespersons or the marketing persons depending on the very strong intrinsic strength or intrinsic skill of penetration. That means out of nowhere you enter into an office and get an appointment and talk about your products, and if you are lucky, then you sell your products and come back. Basically, the penetration. The first puncture that you have to do in an organization is not very easy. It's very, very, very difficult. And there are certain systems, like certain organizations, when they go by certain protocols, there are hierarchical decision making. In such cases, penetrating is much more tough. It is very easy to penetrate when the customer is one person. It's very difficult to penetrate when the customer is an organization, and it's very difficult to penetrate if the customer is a government organization or public bodies. So all these things, maybe more I can discuss later, but this is one of the very strong specialized skill. Is it okay? Please think over it. Any questions, ask me. We'll go to the next week. Thank you very much.